Hello students, this brief video is designed to assist you in completing the library activity that's part of the library sessions. This video will detail the purpose and guide you through the prompts in the activity. Firstly, you will access the link for the activity from your Blackboard page. This link will be in an announcement. Depending on your section, you will be completing a different activity that is specific to either humanities, psychology, business, or STEM section. This video will be for students enrolled in the business online section. The link to the activity will redirect you to a library form that you will complete and submit. The activity is being graded as a daily activity grade in your assignments. You will have the Sunday, February 19th by midnight to complete and submit this activity. This activity is based off the content you completed in modules 1 and 2 and involves identifying a web source and retrieving information for the purposes of citing and incorporating it within your writing. The first part of the activity has you identifying a source and then identifying content from that source that you must paraphrase or quote. The following section of the activity involves the construction of a citation for purposes in the reference page, but also in-text citations as well. To begin the activity, click the Begin button. You'll be prompted to enter your first and last name, as well as your university email, your professor, and your section number. I'm going to go ahead and enter my information. Next, you're going to scroll down to the purpose section. These are going to be your 4 bulleted points about the purpose of what the activity is. As you can see, it has you interacting with using a website and engaging in original citation creation, and you will also be doing parenthetical and narrative in-text citations. Scroll down to the first part of it to retrieving a source, and then you'll start the activity from here. You're going to navigate to the website Bloomberg. Once you've gotten the site up, you're going to come back. From the menu bar, select a category of interest to you. In this my example, I selected the wealth category. See photo below. I'm going to select wealth. Once you've selected your category, you're going to come down to number 2, and you're going to select the story of interest to you. This can be any story that's available on that page for that category. It could be anything that you're interested in. You could do even a little bit of browsing, but just make sure you select the story that is interest to you. My example, I selected the story to how to invest $10,000 right now, and that's circled in red here. But you can choose your own story for this step. Make sure that you're choosing your own story. I've actually pulled up my story already here beforehand, so I'm going to bring that up. As you can see, here's the story here. You'll notice that number 3.3 asks you to read at least half of the story, but attempt to read the full story if possible, if it's not too long. So just take a little bit of time to read it. You can see that this has got a couple of paragraphs here, and then it breaks into a bigger, longer, in-depth analysis of the actual issue. Read as much as you feel comfortable with, but it really will benefit you to read as much as possible. Once you've read your actual story, you're going to come down to the paraphrasing and quotation section. In your own words, you're going to describe what information is being conveyed in the story you read, and you need to discuss with your thoughts what the story stated. What is the main idea? Don't just summarize the story, but try to add a little bit more to it from what you perceived about what the story was trying to convey or mean. And enter a few sentences in the text block below. You'll see in the example, I've entered a couple of different examples of what a paraphrase might look like for the article I selected. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that into this entry here for the purposes of this activity. But you're going to be putting your own content in that actual text box. The next question actually prompts you to enter one sentence or phrase that stood out to you and enter in the field below exactly what quotations around the sentence. This is where you're going to be trying to find a direct quote. In my passage, I found a direct quote that was interesting to me here. I highlighted that in yellow, and I actually listed this as an example. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that quote. Make sure that you're copying the quote with your quotations and with the period. Once you've done those 2 components, you're going to come down to the next section, which is called citation components, and you're going to identify your source more thoroughly. What type of source is this? You should be able to look at the site and be able to identify what type of resource this is. There is a correct answer in here, so make sure that you're trying to think about this a little bit deliberately. You won't be penalized if you do an incorrect answer, but do your best to make the correct answer here. I'm just going to select any random answer here. Next question is asking you, what is the author's last name? The last name, first name is that what you're needing to put in that format. So to find that, you're going to go back to your story and you're going to be looking for your author. This is listed as Suzanne Woolley. I'm going to go ahead and enter that information here. What is the name of the story you read? That you should be able to identify that very quickly. It's usually in bold and very prominent. When was the source published online? This is additionally another information that you should be able to find very quickly. Typically, that publication time and date will show up close to where the author is. If you don't see that in there, it might be at the bottom of the story, but typically it's going to be listed at the top. I can see here that it was published on January 31st, 2023 at 8 o'clock a.m. So we're only going to put the date in this actual format here. 2023, January, and 31. What is the name of the website? This is a pretty self-evident answer as well too. There is a correct answer as well for this one. So you should be able to identify it based off the actual instructions in this activity. I'm just going to select the random answer. You're going to enter the URL to your story source. You can grab that very simply from the story. You can grab that from your address bar. You can copy and paste that. And you're going to put that in that actual that bar there. Everything that you did in this section was leading you up to creating your original reference entry. This is where you're actually going to be generating a reference list entry for your source. You can see that I've given you the formatting examples of what you would be using for a web page, and these are some examples of how you would cite an actual website or web page. So what you're going to be trying to do is match up the information that you inputted into here into this section and create your own reference list entry. I provided an example of what that looks like here in this example reference list entry. You're going to be doing something similar to this for your story. For the purposes of this activity though, I'm going to copy my example here and input it in this field. If you do need assistance, we have a link here to APA Internet Resources references that can help and assist you more with web resources. After you've done the reference list entry, you're going to be creating in-text citations. There's two different types of in-text citations. One is called a parenthetical citation, and the other is called a narrative citations. You're going to be first working with the parenthetical citation examples in this block here. And you'll see that there's two different types of parenthetical citations depending on your content. So if you paraphrase, this is the format for how you would do a parenthetical cite in APA format. Or if you're doing a quotation, this is the format for basically what you're presenting for a quote. You'll notice that paragraph is listed here in the actual section for a quotation. For online sources that don't have page numbers, you're going to reference those with paragraphs. So wherever you pull your paragraph from, you're going to try to locate where that paragraph is. So just count the number of paragraphs that you're in your story where you located that quote. Then you're going to copy your paraphrase content from that section above, and then you're going to construct an in-text parenthetical citation using the format below. I've kind of done that here in this example here, so I'm going to put that here. You're going to be inputting this information though as you're typing. The same thing for your quotation. You're going to be entering your quotation from the section that's up above, the paraphrasing and quotation section. I'm going to be entering the one that I created as an example here. And you're trying to follow this format exactly. Using your quoted sentence, your parentheses, your author last name, comma, year, comma, paragraph number, and then you close your parentheses and end with a period. That's the standard APA format for a web resource or a web page or a website, that's what you would be doing for a parenthetical citation. Narrative citations are a little bit different, but they're very similar. The only difference in a narrative citation is how you introduce the source. You'll see here that narrative citations make reference to using signal phrasing. Signal phrases are basically statements according to author. Author states, author quoted, author discussed. Those are all action things about what the actual individual did, and that's how you would cite it differently. You can see here that now you're putting the author here in the actual narrative, and then you're putting just the parenthetical for the year, and at the end of it, your paraphrase, you're putting paragraph 2. Same thing for your quotations. You're doing that same thing as well too. You're introducing it the same way. Only difference is now you're putting your paragraph at the end of that citation rather than putting your author and the paragraph together. So I'm going to copy my examples here. You don't necessarily have to put a paragraph or a paraphrase. You can if you're wanting to be very precise about it. I chose to do it in this example, but just know that you can just simply cite it author states or according to author year, and then just include your paraphrase content. So if you don't want to include the paragraph, you can also don't include that. But you can only do this for a paraphrase. For a quoted sentence, you do need the paragraph number. I'm going to put that in for the narrative citation. Make sure that you're following the format exactly, and you should be able to construct your own citation and your own narrative citation. Once you've completed all your entries, you may want to review, make sure that you're not missing anything, that you've answered every question here directly. If you do have missed anything, you can go back and you can enter that information. If you see that everything has been inputted, you can go ahead and hit the review button. You'll get to a page here where all your responses have been inputted. You can review it from here as well too. And if everything looks correct about everything that you were doing, you can go ahead and hit submit. Otherwise, you can hit the back button and change any of your answers. Once you hit submit, you'll be brought to a new page to enter your email to have a copy of the results emailed to yourself. Make sure you do have a copy emailed to yourself, and then hit continue. Once you hit continue, you will be redirected to a class assessment form for this activity. Please take this form, complete this form before you exit out of the page. You just have to enter some information about your course, your actual level where you are, when you did this actual session or activity, and then answer some brief questions on here. Once you've answered all this information, you can go ahead and hit submit, and the activity will be concluded. You can retake the activity as many times as you like if you want to get additional practice, but the requisite for the getting credit on the activity is at least doing it one time, but you can retake it if you want to get additional practice. If you do have any questions on this activity, feel free to reach out to any of our librarians here at the Salterfus Library. We'll be happy to assist you. Do not hesitate in asking for any help. And we're very pleased to get you into this session, and we're happy to work with all your students in this English 13-14 semester. Thank you all and have a good day.